Hello and welcome to our first of three segments in our Meet the UB MBA Faculty Program Director series, a series of conversations designed to provide an in-depth look at what makes the University at Buffalo's MBA program and its people so special. My name is Aaron Shaw. I'm the Assistant Director of Recruitment for our full-time MBA as well as our MS programs. And you see here on your screen a little bit of a teaser, QR code. I'll talk more about that before we wrap up today's segment. But I have the immense pleasure of being joined today by one of those very special people, the UB MBA Faculty Program Director, Dr. Tim Maynes. Dr. Maynes, welcome and thank you for joining me.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for the invitation to join you.
Of course. So let's get right into it, shall we? I've got some comprehensive and some fun questions that I'd like to ask. But before I do, can you provide us with some details surrounding your background?
Sure. So my name is Tim Maynes, Dr. Maynes, and I have a PhD in organizational behavior from Indiana University. And also have a master's degree and bachelor's degree in accounting from Brigham Young University, and spent a number of years working in a financial statement auditing accounting firm, CPA firm, before becoming a professor. So that's a little bit more about my background.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing. On to the questions. So why did you decide on an academic career path and what motivated you to become a research faculty member?
Yeah, that's a question I ask myself. I've asked myself quite a few times, even after I become a faculty member. So like I mentioned before, I got a master's degree. I earned a master's degree in accounting, a bachelor's degree in accounting, and I worked in an accounting firm for a number of years and doing audits of companies. And primarily in the financial sector, banks and insurance companies and so on. And I was doing quite well for myself there and largely enjoying the work. But I also, there was something missing. I guess there were maybe two things that were missing from that work for me. And the first one was that the work was maybe not quite as engaging as I would like it to be, because it was very much doing kind of the same things over and over again. And so I didn't have a chance to explore new horizons and to learn new things. So that was number one. And then the second thing that kind of prompted me to want to change was that I didn't feel like I was having enough of an opportunity to sort of coach and mentor other people and to sort of build and to help people to develop. And so that prompted me to think about, well, being a professor, I get to do new things because you're researching and you're pushing the boundaries of what we know and expanding our horizons and understanding. And so that appealed to me. And then the desire to to build the next generation of leaders by mentoring and coaching. That was something that would also be a part of the role of a research faculty member. And so those two things are what prompted me to take the leap and earn a PhD and become a faculty member.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. So you've been a research faculty member, obviously, for a number of years, and somewhat more recently taken on the additional role of MBA Faculty Program Director. What the heck were you thinking? Why did you take on the additional role, stretching your bandwidth that much further?
Yeah, it was a big job to take on. And I guess what I would say is that during my time in higher education and academia, as I've sort of grown up in the field, I've become more interested in the programs that we have. And seeing what they can, I've observed what they can do for people to transform their lives. I'm the academic director of the full-time MBA program. And I've seen as students come in to our program and they're wonderful, for where they are. They've grown, they've developed, and they're mature. But I also see how much growth they have left to do before they can really contribute in a significant way in the organizations to which they go, to work after they graduate. And I've seen how the program facilitates that growth and really accelerates it. And I just wanted to be a part of that process and to influence the development of the program, the advancement, the evolution of the program in ways that will further enhance the ability we have to transform students in their careers and their lives, and to really impact people. And so that's what attracted me to the job. And I have to say, from that perspective, it's been very fulfilling, and that I've enjoyed it. There are, of course, there are aspects of it, that of the program, I would say that we're working on enhancing and improving. It's kind of a never-ending job in one sense, that the world in which our students go to work is constantly changing and constantly evolving, and so we need to evolve and change our programs to match what's needed, what's demanded of our students as they graduate. And so that challenge of understanding what our students need and to be successful, and then trying to bring that into the curriculum, it's a part of why I got into it.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you again. You mentioned students, and obviously a lot of the focus is on them in a role like this. And with that in mind, we all know students who have that special spark or that it factor that makes them extra successful. Thinking back on some of your best students, what qualities or characteristics did they bring to the table, or the experience that you admire the most?
Yeah, the characteristics that come to mind is, as you described, that kind of the it factor, or that special spark that sets a student apart from others. The first one is what I would call a learning orientation, that they just seem to have a voracious appetite for learning new things. And it's something they cultivate. I wouldn't say it's necessarily they're just born with it. They cultivate it. They have an idea of who they want to become, recognize that there's a lot of learning and growth and work that's going to be required to get them there. And they just seem to be voracious about going after that, and not afraid, and in all dimensions of development. So, sometimes students will come in and I want to be a finance person, and that's wonderful. But then at the same time, they might be a little bit less invested in some of the other courses, maybe the behavioral skills courses like organizational behavior, or like Leader Core, or these others. And the result is that their development is, they don't develop as fully as they could. But the ones that I find to be the most successful are the ones who choose to develop in all facets of who they are. And they just have this voracious appetite for learning and growth. And then I would connect that with one additional characteristic. And it's that learning orientation. And then if you combine that with someone who is very conscientious and sort of goal oriented in setting and establishing goals, developing plans to achieve those goals, then you have sort of a recipe for success. Someone who's learning oriented, they're going to learn a lot of things and do it quickly, and more quickly than their peers. And part of the way they do that is through just being conscientious. They follow through. They're committed. They work hard. And so that seems to be a special recipe that produces the highest levels of success.
Yeah. Thanks again for sharing. Okay. A big part of the program, I think you would agree, is relationships and the ability to connect with people. And so in relation to yourself and other faculty that teach courses in the MBA program, what sort of connection can a student expect in and out of the building?
Yeah. For the most part, I would say that the faculty that teach in the full-time MBA program are faculty that are very much interested in student success and are committed to that in every way you might think about that. And so are widely available to have discussions or to meet and tutor or mentor students as it relates to the course content that they're, for the courses that they're teaching. But even beyond that, I mean, we have faculty, we have student held events that, it could be, just a game night or a talent show or these kinds of events, and faculty are invited and faculty often attend. And so connect with students outside of the classroom in those particular ways as well. So the faculty in the full-time MBA program are just phenomenal individuals, wonderful people who are very, in addition to being great scholars, are also very interested in having those personal connections with students. It brings fulfillment, I think, to their lives.
Incredible. Thank you. Thank you again. So earlier in the conversation, you mentioned some intrinsic motivators as well as some external motivation factors as far as taking on the role of a faculty program director. I think it's fair that the human in all of us wants to leave a stamp on something that they pour their heart and soul into. So what is the legacy that you hope to leave behind as the faculty program director?
Yeah, that's a great question, Aaron. I would say that, we already have a wonderful sort of foundation of legacy for the UB MBA program. We have graduates around the world who have been highly successful. If you look at our graduates, we have graduates who are CEOs of major companies. We have graduates who have founded their own companies that have done tremendously well. And we've got, just a history of tremendous faculty who have given their lives and careers to the building of the UB MBA. And so we've got a tremendous foundation of legacy to build on. So if I were to add anything to that legacy, it would be to hopefully further enhance the sort of culture around having that learning orientation that I mentioned earlier, that we have lifelong learners, people who are committed to, sort of pushing the boundaries of knowledge of what we do and understanding of the world and the business world, achieving high levels of success. So the legacy for me would be the success of our alums as they've graduated from the program and they've gone on to success. And in particular, as they've sort of broken new ground in the business world.
All amazing nuggets. Thank you once again for sharing. So on to the fun stuff. First question in this particular segment, what's your favorite place in the world and why?
That is a great question, and not one that I necessarily think about all that often. I love spending time with my family. I've got 3 sons, and we like to do active things together. So in the winter here in Buffalo, we ski together. I thoroughly enjoy that. In the summertime, we do a lot of soccer playing, and I really enjoy doing that with them. So I don't know if it's so much a place as it is the people that I'm with. I really enjoy spending time with my family, my wife and my kids.
Yeah, I was told one time at one point in my life, be where your feet are. And it sounds like that's your favorite place to be.
Yeah, that's great advice. Sort of being present, right? And
Right.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
That's awesome. Thanks for sharing. So on the heels of that, and it sounds like we've already got the answer, but I'll ask it anyway. What is it that matters most to you and why?
Yeah, so I will fall back on the previous answer just a little. And my family is super important to me, my kids and my relationships there. I would also say that the University at Buffalo is important to me as an institution. I just see that it does the way that it lifts the Buffalo community, the contributions that it makes, and so the University of Buffalo is also very important. And my career as well, science, advancing our understanding of various aspects of working in businesses, especially as it relates to leadership and the success and performance of employees. So those are the things that are important to me.
Awesome. So for those that aren't familiar, being a faculty member is pretty demanding in terms of your schedule. Being a program faculty director, as I've talked about earlier, even more demanding. So when you get the rare opportunity, we've heard about hanging out with your family when you get a chance, but what else do you do to relax and recharge?
If it doesn't happen all that often, but I really love going to the beach. I grew up in California, and I know this is a long way from California, but I grew up in California, and going to the beach was just something I enjoyed. So every once in a while, we'll make our way to Florida, and
Okay.
and hit the beach, and so that's fun for me. I also like to read. I'm a big reader, and I'll read pretty much anything related to business that I can get my hands on, or
Mm.
other aspects of like organizational psychology, sort of the way people think about things that makes them successful. So I love to read business biographies of highly successful people, for example, and try to take away from those nuggets of learning and wisdom. So reading, spending time at the beach, spending time with family, those all would fit in that bucket of recharging.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Beach and a book with the family is never a bad option.
No, that's right.
Um, Speaking of books, though, what are you reading right now?
Oh boy, let's see. My most recent, well, and I'm kind of in the middle of this one. So it's a book about Andre Agassi. Do you know Andre Agassi?
Yes.
He was a tennis player back in the 1990s, early 2000s, late 1980s, and he was kind of viewed as a bad boy. Like he had this reputation of being one who was, just kind of a rebel. Even if he didn't necessarily have a cause, he was a rebel. But it's an autobiography. Someone else ghostwrites it, but he provides a lot of the background. It provides the story, and his life story is really a fascinating one. I mean, he grew up kind of a poor kid in Las Vegas. His dad had this dream for him to become a top-rated tennis player in the world. His father and mother, or his father was an immigrant from Iran, and very poor, and pushed Andre very hard to become a great tennis player. And so Andre didn't really like tennis, unfortunately, but he nevertheless persevered and became one of the best tennis players of all time. So that's what I'm currently reading. Probably gave you more than you wanted to know, but it's a fascinating look into sort of the psyche and behind the performance of professional athletes and the challenges that they encounter. And I suspect that many of those same challenges would be there for leaders of companies, especially as someone rises to the level of, say, an executive position. So there are a lot of crossover elements of learning that I've taken away from that book.
No, I can certainly appreciate that. I mean, that's the era that I grew up in, and I very much remember Andre Agassi and Pete Sampras and their battles on the court. And I would argue that Andre's style, if you will, is all the way back in terms of his long hair flow, the big sunglasses. It's everywhere again, and it's not necessarily a bad thing. I don't think if you can relate in that way in terms of overcoming adversity, learning from that, pushing through obstacles, that's only going to spell success moving forward.
Yeah.
So the next question, I'll admit, a little bit cliche, but for the audience that hasn't yet met Dr. Timothy Maynes, what's a unique fact about you?
A unique fact about me. Let's see. I tend not to like to think about myself all that much, and so I don't know what's a unique fact about me. Well, I grew up in a big family, so I'm one of 7 kids, second in line, and what might be of interest to people is that my dad was a school teacher and my mom was a stay-at-home mom, so we didn't have a big income. And my dad would he had grown up in a family where he learned construction trades. So he learned some electrical work. He learned how to be a mason. He learned framing and these kinds of things. And so my dad, to make ends meet when we were kids, would pick up odd jobs doing construction work for people. like putting an addition on somebody's home, or maybe building a fireplace, or those kinds of things. So I grew up working alongside my dad in that way. You know, when I get home from school, that's where we would go next, would be to go out on a project somewhere. And that was most days of the week, and on Saturday all day. So working alongside my dad and my brothers. And I spent my childhood that way. So kind of unique, I guess.
Somewhat, yes. And I would say laid the foundation for a strong work ethic.
Yeah, I definitely was something my father was high in his priority list of values, was working hard and doing your part.
Yeah, very good. Okay, this is, I know, 6 if you're counting in the audience, but I think we touched a little bit on advice earlier, so I think it's important to bring it back up here. But what is the best advice you've ever received?
Boy, there are several that are kind of coming to mind, and I would say that one thing that I strikes me about advice is that sometimes it's just the right moment. So the advice maybe may seem like it's simple, or it's just, yeah, of course you would know that, but I think there's something about the moment and your readiness to learn and receive it that can make a big difference in your life. So I'll just share one bit here. I was after high school, I was not necessarily planning on going to college. It seems kind of weird, college professor, not planning to go to college, but I wasn't really planning on it. And I just kind of was working with my dad and working other odd jobs. And we were building a home, and we were pouring the concrete foundation for this home. And it was quite a big home. It was 3,500 square feet, all on one level. So it was a ranch, but 3,500 square feet all on one level. That's a big footprint on the ground, and it had no basement. And so it was just one massive slab of concrete on the ground. And I don't remember the exact number of yards. It was something like, I don't know, probably like 70, 80 yards of concrete. And so we had, 7 or 8 concrete trucks coming. And we got up early in the morning, and we went to the job site where we had formed up the concrete. And, the first truck got there at like 5:30 in the morning. So we'd gotten there at 5 to wet down the dirt and make sure everything was prepared. And first truck comes and it empties its load, and then the next one, and we're smoothing out the concrete. And my dad had invited his brother to come and help us because it was a big job. So it was me, my dad, and my 4 brothers and my uncle were the crew that day. And, so if you've ever done concrete work, it is back-breaking labor. You're leaning over, you're pushing concrete. It doesn't want to go. It's hard work. And then at the end, you're troweling it off, and you're on your knees, and it's an exhausting day. And so, we worked all day smoothing out that concrete and getting it ready. And at the end of that day, my uncle, he was a university professor. So he looks out at this work that we've been doing, and he points to it, and he says, "That is the reason that you go to school." And now I recognize that school is not for everybody, that there's multiple paths to having a wonderful life, and there are trades and other professions that are equally valuable to one that you can get by going to school. But to me, that really in the moment resonated. And I made the decision at that point that I was going to go to school. And, my muscles were telling me that you don't want to do this for the rest of your life. So that advice was, I don't know if it was the best, but it was very impactful, and it spurred me on and gave me motivation.
Yeah. Incredible story. And I hadn't really ever thought about it in that perspective, as far as receiving it in the moment, and that in itself being impactful. So thank you so much for sharing that. Okay. That is actually going to do it for this particular segment. So that's all for us today. Dr. Maynes, thank you so much for allowing us a peek behind the curtain, if you will, and providing us with some of the great insight into who you are and what makes you tick.
Yeah, you're welcome. It's a pleasure.
And to our audience, we're glad that you're considering the UB MBA program, but we want you to stay connected. We want to hear from you. And as promised, I brought back the QR code to you. At this point, I encourage you to take out your cell phone, open up the camera, which will then allow you to access the links associated with that QR code, in which you can do anything from scheduling a one-on-one admissions advising appointment, attend one of our recruiting events, browse our website, our digital library, where you can find this recording and many others, go through our social media, and so much more. Be on the lookout for the next segment, where we'll take a closer look at the UB MBA program as a whole and what makes it so special. But for now, take care and goodbye.